Alexander, yesterday we purchased a piece of land for development, and I started pooping bricks.
Not what we expected. Also, I feel like if you say my first name Alexander, you need to say my middle name Keith and my last name Gore. Like you need to do if you're going from Al to Alexander,
Yeah.
you need to continue
Everybody
that
usually
logic.
knows him as Al Gore.
Yeah. But you can also call me Alexander Keith Gore.
Okay,
if you want
Alexander Keith Gore. Yesterday we purchased a piece of land, and my reaction after we closed was just anxiety, and yours was excitement, and you look completely confident.
Well, no.
What is going on?
So,
When is the table going to turn on that?
I got my excitement from the firm, from all the guys here. They kept asking, hey, did you get the land? Because they thought it was early because I told them it was at 8:15 in the morning because you told me it was at 8:15 in the morning, but you deny that. So anyways, they're all excited, and I honestly wasn't excited because, I don't know, it's just a process.
Like, you know, the road is long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But excited is better because, like you said afterwards, now it's time to run. So you might as well get
Exactly.
excited
I just
about
felt like
it.
the clock was ticking.
Yeah. So
right after the meeting.
Speaking of that, welcome to the podcast, everyone. This is Inside the Firm, where you get an inside look at what our firm is doing. And the major thing of what we're doing is we're doing a design build. So if you're an architecture firm or business that's interested in design build, this is a podcast for you. The other part of what we do is we go in the past and we talk about lessons learned. So we give examples of stories, what you can expect, what we did. That might be what you should do or what you should not do. I guess that's up to you. But I wanted to say that intro because some people might be coming in at episode 5, 6, and I feel like they need an intro.
I agreed. Yeah, that was a great intro. Wow. Now, if only we had a sponsor and we could just read a copy right now, right?
Our sponsor is RevitFurniture.com. Go to Revit Furniture for all your template tutorial needs for Revit. RevitFurniture.com. Look at that. What else do you need? Spit something else at me.
I think we're good. Wow, this guy is full of pep today. Mm-hmm. I had a really long day yesterday. I think I worked from like 6 to 8 when I got home at night. So I'm a little tired. But Alex is going to pick us up with his peppiness today.
Yeah. So let's talk about the design build project. And just to reiterate, if you haven't watched all the past episodes, you should. We talked
/ listen because this is a non-video podcast.
No, just stare into a white screen and visualize us talking right into your ear. So we did design build in the second half of all those podcasts. So just to let you know, if that's where they're at. And basically what we talked about was getting land. And what you need to do is find out who's going to loan you enough for the land. Because unless you have $150,000, $200,000, $400,000 for the land in your pocket, which a lot of you don't, and we don't.
Especially if you're a first-time developer, and that's kind of the angle we're taking. We're just reflecting reality in this podcast and telling you as first-time developers, here's how you might do it.
Yep. So we didn't have the money, so go find a bank that lends for land and then ask them how much to put down.
And those are, in your opinion, since you're always, are they common? Like,
No.
these? No, they're not, right?
They're not common.
There's literally only one that we've found.
Yeah.
So far, and they were local. I don't know how everything aligned, but
honestly, it's not going to be your Wells Fargo. It's not. I don't know if we mentioned this. It's not going to be your Wells Fargo. It's not going to be your First Bank. It's not going to be that. It's like ours in Longmont is Centennial Lending. So it's going to be some weird name, right? So find the weirdest bank names that you've ever heard of.
How did you even find them? Did you just look up land loans?
Yeah.
I mean, Google, it's as simple as that.
I just Googled it.
Okay.
So you could Google it. And they do work. Like we had to get a blue bank account. So
yeah, they some banks will require you to. I mean, obviously, if you don't bank there, and you go in and talk to a bank there and say, "Well, do you have an account here?" And they're going to want you to do it.
Yeah.
So this one wanted us to add have an account at some credit union.
Yep. So if you can't find it on Google, you can also call up the Wells Fargos and whatever. I don't feel like Wells Fargo is going to be that helpful, actually. But because you don't want to talk to a teller, you want to talk to a banker and then ask if
I would
do
even
it.
recommend just walking into your local credit union. Find as most local one as you can.
There you go.
Because those people are on the ground. They'll be able to. You could say, "Hey, I'm looking. Do you guys do land loans?" If they say no, that's fine. And then ask them, "Do you know anybody who does?" And I bet they'll be able to refer you to some other banker. They're pretty well networked.
Yep. And then so we went to closing yesterday, and his real estate agent let us know, "Hey, go to Elevations Credit Union," which I'm a part of, and they do construction loans. So they might not do land loans, but they might do construction loans. So ways, what I'm getting at is know how much that they want you to put down, and then somehow you have to get that money. So just just earn it. just save.
So yeah, and I think I mean that might sound obvious, but I think here's a mistake that we've seen other people do is they either decide like we've had people come and tell us, hey, I want to build 50 houses. And we're like, okay, great. Do you have land? No. Well, I don't know. Come back when you have land. So I mean, it's fundamental as it sounds. First, your idea is look. You need to figure out, even go further back than that is. How much money am I going to need for X amount of land, right? Yep. And start going down that rabbit hole. Then once you know those parameters, okay, am I a year out before I can even start looking for land because I know I need to get $50, $60, $70, $100,000 of cash. Then the sequence goes from there.
Can't believe you took that only large CU shirt when we were there.
I'm wearing a CU shirt. Go Buffs.
And I want so Lance, can you get this money from investors, family, or friends?
Yes, but only if it's a gift and there's no ties associated to it. That's the way we understood it, because it's sort of like, okay, pretend it was an investor and you said, hey, investor, I want to buy some land. Are you asking for the down payment or in general?
Down payment.
Okay, yeah. So if it's just for the land, just for the down payment, and you said, hey, investor, I need $50,000 because I'm going to buy this $150,000 piece of property and I need a 30% down payment. 33. Yeah, whatever. So the lender is going to instantly ask you, well, where'd you get the money? And then
drugs
is the answer Al would give.
Yeah.
That's one thing you could tell him, but you're really going to have to tell him, no, I got it from, I don't know, Harvey Shark Lending. Let's call it that.
Yeah.
And they go, oh, and then they're going to ask you, oh, so what's your payment schedule with them? And then the whole deal falls through.
And basically, what they then realize is, oh, you don't have any money. So like this down payment, the money that you're supposed to have for the down payment isn't really yours. So at least that initial land has to be yours. Now, when you go for your big construction loan, you're going to need 20 or 30% of that. So that's where you can get like a pool of investors together and then...
Yeah, so Alex asked like a two-part question. You know, could you ask an investor? Yes, but then the whole thing falls through for the land part, and the biggest part is securing the land. And then could you ask a family member? Absolutely, but it has to be a gift. The same thing has to, like you could have a private agreement with them that nobody ever has to see. It's sort of a workaround. I mean, I don't think there's anything illegal about what I'm saying right now.
And of course,
where you say like, hey, I will pay you back, Dad, in 2 years, 10% or none, or I will just pay you back, and we have this, family agreement.
Shout out Keith Gore, send me some money. Excuse me. So then, once you get it, how is it structured? So the clock is ticking, and what we mean when we say that is we now have to pay for this loan every month, right?
And it's much different than like a mortgage, the land loan he's describing.
Because it's not 15 years, it's not 30 years, it's 3 years. So if you did a regular loan at 3 years, you're gonna, and let's say it was $200,000 for the land, you're gonna have to pay, I don't even know how much, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 per month.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Like you divide $200,000 by 36 months. Think about it that way.
Yep. So basically, what you want to do is you want to get a balloon loan. And when we're giving you all this advice, this is just literally what we're doing, not what you need to do or should do. It's just,
this is our own anecdotal experience.
Yeah. So when you should get a balloon loan, don't take that literally. Make your own judgments. All that. And a balloon payment is that. So we only pay basically $1,000 per month, but then at 3 years our balloon loan comes in, and then we have to pay the remaining like $75,000 or whatever it is like that. So, but we should have already designed and built them and sold them by then. So we should have the cash to just pay off that.
And we actually don't know, when Alex says that, my brain instantly goes to, okay, how does that work with the construction loan? Because a lot of times what they'll do, I built a house, and what they'll do with the construction loan is, the developer is taking on the construction loan to build the house or the development, right? And at the end, everything gets rolled into a mortgage. So what I don't know, and what I'm wondering, you might be too, is like, okay, after we're done with the development, the construction loan is done, we've closed on all the properties and we've rolled it into a mortgage. How does that tie into, like, I think hopefully it's all snowballed into also paying off the land loan as that happens as well. You know what I mean? Everything's like funneled into this mortgage at the end.
We'll have to look into it. What I think, but I don't know if this is correct, is, okay, we have our construction loan. And we can talk about pre-selling later, but if we are pre-selling or have them sold while we're constructing it, so that we give them the keys right when they're done. That means if we gave them the keys, they have their own mortgage. That means we get, let's just say they're $300,000 each, right? So we literally get that $300,000. So we don't even have to take out a mortgage. We are literally just paying off that construction loan and then have the profit and then pay off the landlord. Is that how it works?
We're gonna see, and that we'll tell
let
you
you
about
know.
it. But that is where my brain goes. But that doesn't take away from Alex's, the point of our land loan is structured so it's a balloon payment at the end. So that's how we're able to carry this amount of land and how much it costs over a 3-year period while still like hopefully making enough money where we can put a down payment on the construction loan.
Yep. So now that we have the land and we already had our pre-app meeting, basically we have to, in the pre-app meeting, they gave us a whole list of things that we have to do and things that we have to submit. To have a neighborhood meeting, we need drainage, we need a lot of civil stuff, we need elevations. So like in-house, we can take care of a lot of that. But then we need to get our consultants. So we need to get a photometric plan from a lighting, electrical engineer, a landscape plan, probably do that in-house, irrigation plan, don't really know, might do that in-house, but it's all going to be design build in the end. Mm-hmm. And then what's the other ones? A whole bunch of civil. So that's what we're working on right now.
Yep. So right after the closing yesterday, Alex started working on getting quotes from different consultants, civil engineers, like he talked about, electrical engineer. We're gonna try to convince the city to do that we can do the landscape part, and I'll stamp it. But on that note about consultants, one of our really good friends is a structural engineer, and so what we're trying to do is convince them to come up with creative solutions on, structuring a fee more creatively to help it work for us, right? We don't have a lot of cash for this development. Maybe in the next one, if this one's done well, we'll have more cash. We can pay them. We can pay them more up front. But if we can, so there are ways you can try to get other consultants to be creative with their fees, where maybe the upfront fee is like a cost fee. So if it costs them $50 an hour to keep the firm fed, right? But really they bill out at $100 an hour. They defer the fees for later. So we structure it as if until we get the construction loan, and then we can start feeding them fees on the back end of everything. If that makes sense.
Or at the end at the profit. So exactly. They might say, hey.
Yeah, because there was a firm you talked with is that what they were saying?
Yep. Hey, all your civil work is going to cost $5,000, but we'll only charge you $1,000 now. Once they're all sold, give us $4,500 just for deferring that.
Yep.
And
their ways of leveraging getting paid are, they can obviously put a lien on the project, like they could stop construction if everything falls down. So they have ways of holding your feet to the fire and making you pay them. Not that we wouldn't pay them, but I'm just saying, like, know that I think it's okay to suggest these things, especially if it's a long-term relationship you've built with a certain set of engineers who you can, and architects are notorious for giving engineers work. Yep. You know what I mean? And not the other way around, even though we do get work referred from engineers, but a lot of times it's the architect.
You know how you got your window discount for your house? Because you're
good looks, charm?
No, because you're a licensed architect.
Okay.
None of that. Do you think, let's say I get licensed quick, which I should, could we use that for this?
Yes, we could. So, tangential point, for anybody who's ever going to build their own house, design and build their own house if they're an architect, there are companies, and I will name drop. One is Pella.
Shout out Pella.
Yeah, I love their windows, and I recommend them for all the stuff we do. Anyway, you can get a one-time a discount if you specify them on your own project, and it can save you, I think, up to 25% of the total cost, which is massive. So that's what Alex is talking about. I don't know any other companies that do it. I think maybe Weather Shield, but if you're doing your own building, I think it's a really good opportunity to start also networking with a ton of other like building suppliers and industry folks like that, like the solar people we talked to the other week.
Yeah. Okay, we'll have to think about that.
So you better get licensed really quick so we can get a window discount.
There you go.
I like it. Plus a solar discount. So there you go. I also got a discount with the solar company on my house. So maybe Al, you got to get licensed so we can get this solar discount.
And by we, I get all that money that discounted because I used it instead of on my house. I love it. I love the plan.
Nice. Walk myself right into that
You
one.
did. Good job.
Oh, this is a win-win for you.
Yeah. I'll have to throw you some peanuts, of course.
Pre-sale. Alex mentioned that.
Yeah.
So yesterday at closing, the guy, the gentleman who ended up selling the land, he just had some health problems, and that's why he ended up selling it. But got to know him fairly well during as much as we could during the meeting. He's a mover and a shaker in Longmont, and
some would say a long monster,
and has been building. Some would say long monster. Yeah, he's the long monster. Yeah. I don't know. What do you think? A guy's been building like his whole life. I mean, he named like he's doing schools and Fort Collins City Hall and all kinds of stuff.
Yep. So the question is, should you or should you not pre-sale, and what are the benefits to pre-selling?
Yeah, because he started. They were his agent and himself. They said, "Oh, you guys are going to do so well on this project," and they were ridiculously confident. And then I was nervous. And one of the things we mentioned was pre-sales. He actually shot the idea down right away. Yeah, because he had a good reason for it. So we're going to talk about pre-sale. So pre-sale, the idea that we had was, hey, we're not going to be cheap developers because we have manpower here, and we are going to do super photorealistic renderings, these awesome floor plans to sell, and then we're going to work with our real estate agent and set up like a website, and we're going to try to see if we can pre-sell all of these things. Walk into the bank as soon as you have a building, or like while we're getting a building permit, and say, look, they already are sold. Give us the money. It's not going to be a problem. Maybe we don't even have to have a huge cash down payment. Well, we brought this up to that other developer, and he said, "Oh, you can't. I don't think you can do that anymore." And yeah, don't you remember? You looked at me.
Well, because I was in the bathroom. I came back, and you guys were in the middle of the conversation.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
Sorry, I didn't know Alex was.
You didn't even know I wasn't even there.
That's how much I pay attention to him.
Yeah.
Not so much. So he said, he basically shot it down. He goes, you can't do that anymore. And I was just completely open to anything he had to say because this is a very successful man. And he said, and I'm like, well, why can't you do that? And he goes, well, construction right now, so the residential market is so hot in Colorado, and there's such a labor shortage that costs go up so much. So like if you, let's say we were going to sell, just a round number, sell each unit for $100,000. He goes, if you pre-sell that based on your current construction costs, but and then you go get the construction loan. Let's say you don't get everything finished for just 1 year and it goes up 30%. You're gonna have to eat that cost.
Yeah, and let's say the construction costs were $70,000, and then all of a sudden it went up 30%. Now you made $0.
You made $0. Yeah, exactly. So all of a sudden you're a poor developer.
Yeah.
So Alex came, caught that part of it. I think this is where like Alex came into the room, and we're all kind of convinced like, oh yeah, okay, well, let's not do that. Well,
lo and behold.
So I got home later that night and was hanging out with my fiance, who is also our agent, our realtor. And
Shout out Maryland.
And she goes, yeah, resident. What is it? Your Edge in LongmontRealty.com.
There you go.
Josh, what is it? What's your website? I got it. Okay. So I brought that point back up to her when we were talking last night, and she goes, well, don't you remember our house even did that? She goes, so, but the developer didn't have to eat the cost. And I go, that's right. And she goes,
explain.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I go, oh, that's right. Yeah. So we had to eat the cost, and we did. I mean, I think our house went up by about 30% on average, and it's because of all the reasons I already mentioned. Labor costs and material costs and all that kind of stuff. It just went through the roof. But we still had to eat it. Like we couldn't not eat it. I mean, we had to cough up. I had to cough up. She did too. Quite a bit of money at the end, cash, to make it happen.
Okay.
I don't even know if I told you that. I think I did, but not in that kind of detail.
Okay. So let's explore this idea. Is this the one that you wanted to spring on me?
Yes.
Okay. If you were taking the architectural test and they asked you, honestly, this is because I just went over this. Okay. So you're taking the test, and it says, you as the owner signs a contract with the contractor for $1 million, right, to build the thing, and they know it's going to take a year. Well, because of shipping delays or whatever, or the contractor didn't order material in time, it went up 20%, right? Who is responsible for that cost? Your answers are A, the owner, B, the architect, C, the contractor, D, none of the above. What's your answer?
My answer is A, the owner.
You would be wrong.
Because it's the contractor.
It's the contractor.
Yeah.
It's the contractor. So obviously, like with your house, you play like, and this guy is a developer who we do work with.
But I think so. And then just back up 1 second. That question is for, I think, your typical AIA owner architect
agreement.
Yeah.
Exactly, because they're supposed to factor that in, and they can't.
Which everybody listening, not everybody uses those AIA contracts. We never have.
Exactly. Because and this also has to do like these AIA contracts, they're talking about schools, millions and millions of dollars, like they're talking about big stuff. So like if you make a bond or a company like does something huge for this, so many $50 million, you can't, and it's going to take 2 years, and it's going to take 2 years, and these contractors should be in business for 30 years. Like they should price adjust and know what's going on. You can't go back to the city or the shareholders or something else and say, hey, we need, $2.5 more million, even though they do it. Anyways.
In our case, we couldn't go back to the bank. How about that? Because when we go, we couldn't go ask for a bigger construction loan. So yeah, we would have to figure out how to cut corners or something like that.
So here's with the pre-sale, the benefit is it might look better to the bank. And maybe when we go...
I'll just say it will.
Yeah. But, yeah.
We're getting refills on coffee, sorry.
I
with our coffee mule, Fernando. Shout out Fernando.
But we should ask the bank, and we should lay it out like that. We should lay it out exactly like it is, because they will know where the market is and what it's going like.
Lay it out as if there's going to be an increase in costs?
There might be, right?
There will be.
And there will be. And he might say, guys,
go ahead now.
As long as you have, 20% down or something like this, like don't even worry about it. Just go ahead and, sell them later. He might be fine with it, right? So if he's fine with it, what
the bank.
If the bank is fine with it, then what are our positives and negatives of pre-selling?
Okay.
Positives is just we know the cost, and we might be able to time the market at the high point.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
But who knows if they want to get out of it then if we do tie it at the high point, right? Time it at the high point.
The banks.
No, the buyers.
Okay.
Right? The negatives are once you pre-sale, then you have to deal with people. And dealing with people adds complexity and all this other stuff. And if you can just deal with less people, it's better. 3, you might be losing out because construction costs might go up. And those people might say, no, you eat it. They might say, go screw yourself. I won't take it then. I said, 100,000. It's 100,000 or else I'm walking away.
Yep. And then they just walk away with their earnest. We keep the earnest money, measly 5,000 or something like that.
Yeah. Yep. Or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then the other negative is that during that time, it could have gone up. The market could have gone up to 120. So that's 20 more thousand times 8. Blah blah blah. So I think it's like we need to just have a preemptive meeting with the bank. And say, and they might even say, you know what, with you guys, you're so new, we require you to pre-sell some of them. I'm like, okay, we have no choice.
Well, yeah, some might, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that was Alex's theory. Let me tell you how we want it to. Yes, you're right about all that stuff.
Yeah.
But let me just tell you about our experience with the house.
Yeah.
So the way our contract was set up, it was with the developer / our builder.
Yep.
Was he had it all listed out that all of these costs are going up, and like all prices agreed upon from here on out. The buyer, aka us, is well aware of possible price increases, and then anyway, all this stuff is spelled out in legal mumbo jumbo.
Yeah.
And that's the way I want to set up our contracts. So we're going to use his same lawyer.
Yep.
That built my house, and then set it up for that inflationary period. The point about this is you got to be aware of that inflationary period. So you can still pre-sell as long as you're aware of it and it's written and you're bulletproof.
And I don't want to. I'm not saying I'm anti pre-selling. I'm just throwing a wrench at you because you have to think about all these angles. So I'm not saying I'm anti.
Well, yeah. No, it was a good point about the banks. I didn't even think. I only thought about our contracts with the buyers. I didn't go further and think about the banks. I think it's a good point. Like, we do have to talk to the bank. I think. We set up the contracts as if we show them the whole business plan. We set up the contracts, we show them, and then we say, how do you guys feel about this?
Which way should we go?
Yeah.
Should we go left or right? Which way should I bear?
Because there were some other townhomes that we did in Lakewood. I know for a fact they have kept creeping up in prices. And I don't know how he structured his contracts with his buyers.
Two things. One, that contract with you was with an architect who knows the building construction process, knows things goes up.
Sorry, developer, you mean?
The developer
Yeah.
but you were buying the home. You are in the business.
Yes.
So like you had a clear head. You had realization. You knew what was going on.
Compared to like your average buyer.
Yep.
Okay.
So your average buyer won't just, because you knew like, okay, I'm going to be hit on this. It's going to come up. It's going to come up. You know, I'm going to be okay with it. That's way different than dealing with your average consumer.
Well,
and
my fiance wasn't aware of it, and she got hit at the end.
And did she take it as easy as you?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the other point.
So yeah, it's a great point.
How many times have we gone back to, is it fun asking developers for more money?
We hate it. We hate it. So we hate asking for additional services.
Yep.
We try to avoid it at all costs.
And if it's going to go up multiple times, do you want to ask 8 people 3 times? We need to up it for this. Give a rationale. Deal with those emotions. Pretend like you aren't busy and have better things to do than to listen to their complaints. Me and you have talked to developers and people. All of the last couple projects you know about, it is terrible, and I want to avoid that if possible. The second thing is not only might cost of materials go up, the market just might go up. And can you just justify charging them $20,000 because the market just went? Oh, also someone else would buy it for 20, so pay us 20 more G's. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
I think we're gonna get our head chopped off.
So just know that this is kind of we don't really even have a conclusion at this point.
This is literally inside the firm.
Yeah, You're inside our brains right now, for better or for worse, thinking about that. So that's where we're at with the development. Unless you have anything else to add about it, where we're headed towards.
No. Hey, if you guys have thoughts, comments, experience, go to our Facebook page, send us an email, akg@f9productions.com. Do we have Twitter, Instagram, all that? I'm sure we do.
Yeah, you can find us on Twitter. Follow us on Twitter, F9 Productions, Instagram, F9 Productions. You just Google us all over the place.
Get a hold of us. But Facebook.
And we over the weekend we started a private Facebook group that is exclusively for any listeners of Inside the Firm. We'd love for people to just start discussions, ask us any kind of questions at all. Like the big thing is we're here to help and here to just talk with everybody, engage socially.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Cool. All right, moving on.
So we started this podcast opposite of usual. The usual way we do it. Usually we start with
blast from the past.
And then what's happening now. So now we're gonna go back to the past.
Back to 2012. So one of the things that I think we've mentioned on other podcasts is do one fun project a year. Are we calling this our fun project, or do we have another one?
What? The development project?
Yeah.
I think the podcast is the fun one.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. We might do another one because we like to involve everyone at the firm.
Oh, we're gonna pitch a television show.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
But are those really fun?
No, it's a lot of work. If you ever get asked to be on TV, even if it's a reality show, no, first of all, it's not reality. There is a fair amount of acting involved. Yep. They actually put lines in your mouth, and it's a lot of work.
There you go.
You feel like you have worked all day being on camera.
Yeah,
100%.
You're exhausted. Okay, so let's go back to 2012. And our fun project of that year, we were driving to the Grand Canyon with our girlfriends at the time, and the end of the world was coming. So we decided that we'd make houses for Doomsday. And then we made a website called Doomsday Dwelling. And
doomsdaydwellings.com.
Yep. What was cool about it is that we simplified. So we came up, there's 4 major elements, right? Fire, wind, earth, and water, right? So we had to protect against each one. And then each one had a shape. So fire was a square and it collapsed in on itself. Wind was a circle. So like a tornado would blow around it, or we said a nuclear bomb, which this thing would go underground. Flood was a rectangle elevated so that the waters could go under it. And then
Earth for earthquake.
Earth for earthquake was a triangle because triangles are very stable.
One of the most strongest geometric pieces there is, right?
It's called house because it's shaped like a house shape. And it was super fun.
It was incredibly fun, and then I think the other thing was every time we do, so like Blake said, when we did the tiny house, it's highly topical, right? That whole movement started to take off.
Yep.
The web was flooded with all kinds of stuff like that. 2012, that was an obvious one because of the Mayan calendar, and it's a false prediction. Obviously, we're here talking to you.
Yep. But even the flood house was very topical because Fargo was having floods. So like I literally just took that one house out and said, hey, this is something you can run in your newspaper. So not only are we doing, think about a fun project, but then also think about the news and what's happening and does it relate? You don't have to do this, but this is what we've done. And I think this is why we've been in magazines, on TV, why people know about us and all that.
Yeah. You might have your own cool idea, but if there's not like a groundswell that you're just sensing, you might just shelf that idea and try to find something that is there's like a grassroots movement going on, like on the web, and people are talking about it. Yeah. Like the hot one I could think of right now is 3D printing of houses.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like what if you started proposing a bunch of those, that like, oh, I can build these. And what was the one that went viral
in
over
Russia?
Yeah.
Yep. And then
there's one in Russia and somewhere else.
Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, Saudi Arabia.
Saudi Arabia has a really cool one. Look up Saudi Arabia tiny house. It might be UAE or Dubai. Mm-hmm. So, just Google, smash those words together. So you can take an idea that you do have and then just adapt it to whatever is topical too. Another one that I think is cool, but it's maybe just in like our little genre is virtual reality. So maybe, I don't know if that would be, I don't know if that's going to go anywhere with the news, but I know 3D printing would go with the news.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So the cool thing was about that project was we got this, and we started another website. It was another way for people to find us all over the world. Hopefully Colorado, where they would decide, hey, we're going to contact you guys to build one of these. I mean, it is still a life goal of ours, like a professional life goal, to get all of these built by someone. Even if they're slightly different, I don't care. I just think they're rock star level houses.
Yeah, and God, if they were in one neighborhood, it's circle, square, triangle.
And we have got inquiries, but I mean, the price tag always freaks people out. Like we tell people, I think we're several $1 million for each one.
Yeah. Well, some of them are below, but most only one or two of them.
A lot of them have like movable. I think all of them do. All of them can like expand and contract, and
besides flood house, but the other one
flood house has those panels that can move in and out too on the side. So
flood house is so cool too. Yeah. The other thing, so we started that in 2012. It's 2017. 2 weeks ago, CNN called me. And they're supposed to be doing an article in Style, and we're supposed to be featured in it. They'll let us know when it comes out or something like that. But that's what's so weird about these two is they can lay dormant for a very long time and then come back. And then, like Lance said, God, I hope if you are rich and listening to this, get in contact with us because these are some cool houses.
Yeah, they could save your life. Yeah. So what that project ended up concluding at a certain point in 2012 was we ended up landing a 7-page spread in Modern in Denver, which is prime like magazine and advertising real estate. I think we calculated it would have been like over $10,000 in advertising fees and stuff like that. So it was a super cool article. We haven't made any money off of these houses, but what it did was it led to another cornerstone of validating our work and our professionalism and like who we are, right? So we could. I've been in multiple meetings in the office, and right behind me, we're in our conference room right now. Right behind me are the magazines that these were published in. And so I've multiple times pulled out the books and stuff like that. To be able to show a client that you're published, even if it's a magazine, is huge. I mean, they're looking for you to be confident and know what the heck you're doing because they're going to spend a lot of money on whatever they're doing for building, right?
Yep. And then there's two other things, not only in person, but I remember after that talking to people who got a hold of us, and then we said, hey, how did you hear about us? And at least 3 or 4 times, like, I don't know, we just kind of know about you.
Yeah.
And it might be, and another person said, a friend referred you to us. We go, who's that friend? And they'd say some random name. Just like someone we have no idea, checked on Facebook, checked everywhere. And I wonder, honestly, like, did that friend have the magazine? And then they were at their house and said, check out these guys. And then, like, that's a friend recommending them. And then the other thing is that I think when these news people come and contact us, for paper, we've been in, the local papers all the time. And sometimes we'll mention some of these offshoots. And I know that they're at their computer because they say, I just went to that website. It makes you just, like, the depth you aren't defined by this one linear thing like, oh, I'm doing an article on you because of this one thing. They look and they go, holy cow, you guys have all this. And that's
wow, what aren't you guys doing? Type
and
of thing.
The CNN lady said, hey, I don't know if you have a press list, but put me in it for when you guys do cool stuff and let me know. Like, because she saw like all the stuff that we were doing.
Yeah. So that's kind of our flashback. Another way that sort of led into stuff was in 2012 we started doing renderings for another firm out here in Colorado, and one of the things we think that architects do a terrible job of is they just market to other architects. So think about like Architectural Record, right? Who is that advertising to? I think it's mostly advertising to architects. Like I think there's even been a couple articles written where they list out 95% of the subscribers are architects and
or work in architecture firms. Yep.
Yeah.
So we've always been against that. We've always been against like, why are we just marketing to other architects?
And try to find different venues of how not to do that.
Yep. And I think that we're going to talk about one of the benefits, but there's two benefits. One benefit is that I think when you go for awards and if other architects are looking you up or if they're on the jury and they know that you're prevalent, I think it's easier for you to get that award, right? Mm-hmm. But that's a long, big game, right? The other thing is you can get work from other architects, and Lance will talk about that. But the point I want to make about these two things is that you need to think about like, what is it? It's like your cost. I'm looking for the word. I'm blanking for it. But your cost to time analysis. Basically, like, is it worth it? Is it worth it? Like,
is the return on investment there?
Exactly. So if you're only marketing to architects, there are these two things that we think are real benefits. But if it takes you, a month of two of your guys doing it, is it worth it? It might not. Are you a big firm? Are you a small firm? It may or may not be worth it. And a lot of times, like, we won't pay for advertising in Arc Record. We'd love to be in it. But that's what you're playing.
Yeah.
It's the game you're playing.
So so I think our conclusion is the majority of the time, internal marketing to other architects is not going to do anything. I mean, that seems like a no-brainer, right? So maybe call it 75% of the time. Then there's that 25% of the time where it can actually work. And here's the example of how it can work. I think it can work in a recession. So when a big recession comes, especially since the economy in America is one of the big parts is the housing industry and the building industry. So when that tanks, architecture firms get hit right away, right? Yep. Mass layoffs happen, and so the core of who stays employed at those architecture firms are the people that can go sell the products, right? Like the principals, the project managers, and then the people who are laid off the quickest are the people at the lowest spot, entry level people, design technicians, that unlicensed people, that sort of thing, right? But at the same time, those firms still get projects coming in, even though it's a recession, and might need to ramp up their staff.
Especially when you're coming out of the recession, but you aren't clear.
Yeah. So you're just not sure about, okay, should we hire this person full time or should we not?
And they're still scared because they don't want to make big commitments. So there's this sweet spot of maybe like a year and a half coming out of a recession where they might want to hire outside consultants or outside labor to do their work for them until they know we have an overflow. We'll go ahead and not give these guys any work, and then we'll hire another person and we'll be good to go.
Yep. So if you can be aware of that sweet spot, right? Let's say you got laid off and then you were on unemployment for a while, but then you started seeing this sweet spot of that other firms were like in the news. Oh, they got this big project. One way is to keep yourself afloat and keep yourself in the industry is start marketing yourself through other architects, and saying like, hey, I am open to being flexible with my work schedule. I'll do freelance work for you. Here's the kind of renderings I can do. Here's the drafting skills I can do. So we got a reference from a very good friend of ours, and he said, hey, you guys gotta. So he went and talked to the principals of Oz Architecture because they were teaming up on some project, and they said, and they asked him, do you know anybody that can do renderings and cost effectively? And Jerry ended up telling those guys, oh yeah, you should look at these guys, F9. These guys swim in renderings. Like the stuff they can do with the computer is amazing. And so that's how we got turned on to Oz. And for about a year to 2 years, like Alex said, we ended up being extra horsepower for Oz whenever they weren't ready to hire people full time, but they definitely needed to ramp things up and ramp things down.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other thing I would say too is that if it is a recession, maybe you aren't going to firms looking for jobs. Like, I want a job. You know that you're going to split yourself. So you say, hey, here's what I'm offering. Here's what I'm doing. If you have any extra stuff, let me know. And you do that to 20 firms. They each give you a little bit. You're good to go.
And then, if you do like we do, every little bit, let's say it's, we're working for 3 or 4 different firms. I mean, there you go. There's a whole paycheck. You're still in the industry. Because we had a lot of friends that just completely ended up going completely out of the industry for several years or for an entire lifetime. I mean, they just, because I think, no fault to them at all. I mean, how are you supposed to navigate through like the Great Recession? But in the future, for anybody who's like an up and coming architect or even in school listening to this, write this stuff down, because I think it could save your career. Like, you could still end up being what you want to be if you take this kind of approach as rather than going in and doing what Alex said. Like, don't go in and maybe look for a full-time job. Just go in there and say, these are my skills. I can be flexible.
Absolutely. So, hey, that's all I got, man.
That's all I got too.
Well, cool. Hey, again, if you have any questions, comments, let us know. Hope you enjoyed the podcast, and tune in next time.
See ya.